Hi friends, it's Becky. Let's go fossil hunting. I got some really cool beads in my Kraftika Czech Exclusive box this month, including this trilobite coin bead that we've got here, and then these little trilobite pressed glass beads with a gold wash on them. They're really, really pretty, and I wanted to kind of bridge that gap between this more greeny turquoise and this blue turquoise by adding a couple of the blue pebble fire polish beads and these green turquoise pebble fire tricks. So we're going to have both of those colors in this necklace, and then just sort of assisting in tying it together, we've got some of these bicones that we've had in that box. I'm also going to be adding, because I want to really call out this gold wash on these beads and tie it in with the rest of it, I'm going to be adding some seed beads. These are 11-0 seed beads, and they are permafinished galvanized golden fleece. It's this really soft gold color, not yellow at all. And it's going to look really nice next to this gold wash, but it'll also give us a little extra length for our necklace. It's going to be a very simple necklace, just strung. I'm not even going to be doing something different with this focal bead. I'm just going to be stringing it right in the middle of the necklace with beads along on either side. So again, it's going to be a really simple necklace, simple stringing. Going to do all of that. You could, if you don't have seed beads or you wanted to do something different, some 2mm spacer beads, like something about this size, would also work. These are just metal spacer beads, but the gold on it was just a little too rose goldy, and I wanted something that was going to fit better with this, so I'm opting for using these guys. Alright, so let's get these guys separated into two camps. This is like when you go fossil hunting, you've got to, clear away the extra dirt, very carefully brush it off. I don't know if y'all have ever done that before. I guess I was very lucky in where I lived in my youth, because I was able to go on a school field trip to some areas in southern Utah where we were actually able to do some fossil hunting and dig in the dirt and find fossils and brush away the dirt and see some of these guys out there like that. It was pretty great and a really formative experience for me. So I'm really, really happy about this project. It's bringing up some great memories of that field trip. And being able to, see all these like traces of things that had been left from like ages past. So I'm going to start in the middle and work my way out. I'm going to have two of these trilobite guys on either side, and I thought we would kind of have these fire polish beads dotted around there. I'm going to do my design process with y'all so that we can go over this together instead of just having it all laid out already. That way we can have a little more chatter. If you'd like to skip ahead to the stringing, I will go ahead and put a link in the description to the timestamp where I start doing that so that you can just skip ahead. But before I let y'all do that, let's go over my materials again. I'm going to be just stringing it on some medium beading wire. This is 49 strand wire in kind of a gold color. You could use any color of stringing wire that you want, since these are all opaque beads. Like you could do turquoise wire, you could do this bone color, you could, it's silver wire would work too. There would just be barely visible on the clasp part. Speaking of clasps, I'm going to be using just a lobster clasp and then a jump ring on the end, and that's going to be about it. As far as tools go, basic stringing tools, a crimper. My preferred crimper is the magical crimper, but you can use any kind that you want. If you do use a taco crimp, you might want to also use a crimp cover, but since I use magical crimpers, I usually don't need to do that, because the 2x2 crimp tube turns into a smooth little round ball of crimp, and it's not rough, and it's actually pretty decent looking. To cut my wire, I'm going to be using some flush cutters, and then I've got some, what is the word for this? Chain nose pliers. Sometimes words escape me. But yeah, I've got some chain nose pliers that I'm going to be using to open and close my jump rings. So let's get back to the design part. All right, so I think I want, and I might need to spread these out a little bit more to give myself some more room. And I think what I'm going to do is design from the middle out. It's one of the things that I like to do when I'm not sure exactly how long I want it. I'll design from the middle out so that I can have, and I'm going to be putting the seed beads in between each bead on here, by the way. I'm not putting them in there right now because I'm just going to pick them up as I'm stringing. But I would like to go out this way. That way I can adjust the length, like leave off a repeat, add some more smaller beads if I run out of the big beads, and then work the other side. So that's what I like to do when, again, I'm not quite sure how long I want it to be or how long it's going to be. But I think that that's going to be a good little repeat where I've got this little beige bicone, the greeny turquoise drook, and either the fire polish bead or the trilobite. They'll be kind of interchangeable there. And then just a repeat of that. And again, there's going to be a little seed bead in between those. So we're not going to have two right next to each other. But I think that's going to actually work really great for a design. At first I was thinking of doing like a little multi-strand thing with maybe even beading thread and then like weaving them together. But I really just feel like simple today. I feel like easy. I feel like something that will make my heart happy without having to challenge my brain too much. Do you know what I mean? Something that's just going to be pretty and easy. Pretty easy. So I'm going to go ahead and work off the spool for now because I can cut the length after I know how long this one side will be. And I don't need a bead stopper since it's attached to the spool. So let's get our seed beads out and then we can start stringing. Whoop. And I'm just going to spend some time stringing and chatting with my friends who like to watch my videos to spend some time with me and just have a good beady time together. So like I said, I'm not doing anything special with this focal bead. We're just going to have it be right there in the middle of all of these other beads. But we are, hold on, the end of this wire, let me scooch in just a little bit so you can see this. It's a little bit flat for going through the 11-0 seed beads. So this is a little tip for if you want to be able to string something with a smaller hole on your beading wire. Take your flush cutters and cut at an angle like that. So now that it's at an angle, I can get it onto these 11-0s so much easier. Because sometimes the ends of the beading wire can get flattened out a little bit. Okay. There we go, that's the start of that. Oh, I've already got one of those on there. So yeah, this is just going to be simple stringing, repetitive. Grab this bead, go to the seed beads. Grab the next bead, go to the seed beads. I find projects like this to be really great at helping me kind of center, helping me put things in an order. You know, everything was kind of jumbled on my bead mat, and now it is getting straightened out, put right in order, and just watching it come together. It's grounding, you know? When a lot of stuff is going on and you've got things you have to deal with and people you need to call and tasks that have to be completed, and it's just a lot to do, but you need a little creative time. You need to be able to make something beautiful and fun and, you know, have something pretty to wear at the end of it. It's nice to have something that you can just put the next bead on and then put the next bead on and then put the next bead on. Sometimes that's one of the ways that I find beading to be therapeutic for me. And I know a lot of my friends who watch this channel feel the same way often when they are beading and just finding a little bit of calm in the middle of life's storminess. So I am hoping that my friends who may be having some stormy times right now, and it doesn't matter if the sun is shining physically or not, you may still be having a stormy time. You may have loved ones who are in the hospital. You may have your own health issues that you're dealing with. You may be having some distressful things going on in your life, and I hope that you're able to find some time to maybe sit down and put some beads on a string in a specific order that you like, that you find pleasing, and just have a little bit of calm in the middle of all that. And that's what I'm having here today with this, and I hope that you're having it with me. Even if you're not actually beading, it's my hope that just sitting here and spending some time with someone may actually help. I do really like, I made a little mistake. Can you see? I've got 2 seed beads in a row. So let's just fix that before we move on. There we go. That was easy. And we've got a little bit more over here. I guess this is the risk that you run when you still have it on the spool. It's unwinding and getting everywhere. Over here I've got it wrapped around all sorts of things. I'm gonna need to wind that up a little bit and put the little clamp back on because it is a little bit ridiculous how it has gone everywhere. Alright, there we go. My wire has been wrangled back on the spool, and I still have enough in play here that I can still work with what I'm doing. You know, and sometimes things get a little crazy and go winding out everywhere. You can just take a minute, stop what you're doing, wind things back onto the spool, and then keep going. I missed a little spot in my pattern here. That's what happens when you take a rest. Say, you know what? I'm going to do something else instead. Sometimes I have trouble finding the hole in beads that have like the speckled bits on it, the little travertine or pebble finish, because sometimes the little dark spot looks like a hole instead of what the actual hole is. I don't know, do you guys ever have that happen to you? Where you're just looking and trying to make the wire go through a hole that isn't actually a hole. That can be a little silly. Might even be a little frustrating sometimes, but we can get through it. You know, this in and of itself would make a fantastic bracelet, I think. If you were looking for an idea for bracelets, if you weren't super into necklaces, you could do a bracelet like this. That would be great, especially maybe like a stretch bracelet or something. That would be a good stretch bracelet. Dang, am I changing my mind? Do I want to do a bracelet instead of a necklace? No, 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 I'll do a necklace. Let's keep going, but bracelet. That would be a lot of fun to do. Or maybe an anklet if you did a couple more repeats. You know, a couple more repeats, make it a little bit bigger. Something that would fit around an ankle. Maybe not my ankle, but an ankle. I need a little bit of room on my ankles. That's just how it is. I have always had very sturdy ankles, which is great because I'm not super coordinated, and I would have broken my ankles so many times with stepping off curbs wrong and tripping and all of that if they weren't sturdy. Alright, so this is the point after I get this next little repeat on here where I'm going to check my length and I'm going to see if I need to add more length. I'm going to aim for about maybe choker length for this so that this sits like right at the base of my throat and not, you know, down in my chest area or anything like that. I think it would be great if I had something. I like having some shorter necklaces because then I can wear that and then maybe layer a longer necklace along with it. Alright, so here we are. Anklet length. Now let's check for the necklace if that's half of it is necklace length or not. It is perfect. It is absolutely the perfect length. Alright, so what I'm going to do, since I love the length and it's perfect the way it is I'm going to scooch my wire up almost to the end, and I am going to crimp myself a little loop on this end. I'm just going to crimp it, that way I don't have to use a bead stopper or anything like that. I'm already very happy with the length. So I'm going to put my crimp on here, bend this over, and I'm just going to make a little loop first of all, and then I'll be using a jump ring to attach my closures. One good reason to use jump rings to attach closures so that you can change them. If you can be like, you know what, I'd like to use a magnetic clasp instead of a lobster clasp, or if you have something fancier you want to add later, you can do that using jump rings instead of having it looped directly onto that. So I've got this looped in half. I'm going to grab my crimper. If this is your first time seeing a magical crimper, this is how it's done. There's this concavity inside the magical crimper right there. It's just the one little loop. I'm going to get that crimp tube centered. Come on, center. There we go. Centered in there in the jaw. And then give it a squeeze. When I do that, it squeezes just the corners of that crimp, and it gives me a ravioli shape. So then I rotate it to 90 degrees, give it another squeeze. It doesn't look like a little ball of crimp yet, not until I keep going at it from different angles. Make sure it's centered each time you do it. And it smooths out all of those rough edges, and so you have a smooth little ball of crimp at the end of it that is actually very strong. Let's snip off that wire right next to my crimp. and scooch my beads up to the end of it. Now I'm going to take my wire and I'm going to give myself enough wire to be able to crimp at the end. I'm just going to snip that off of my spool. And now I want to string the rest of it so that it mirrors this. So let's get these beads laid out a little bit. I've got one of these, another one of those. And it's going to be just strung exactly the same way. There we go, I've got those all laid out. And now I'm going to do that same little trick that I did with this end of my wire that I did with the other one, where I just give it a little snip at an angle so that it will slide onto those 11-ohs a little bit easier. But yes, the high desert is such a fantastic place to look for fossils, to find just little fossilized remains of creatures, animals, things that lived millions of years ago. It's really great place to learn about, geography geology, because you can see, the stratification, exposed rock from different levels of sedimentation. And it's really fantastic. One of my favorite types of fossil, though, is petrified wood, because it was not, a living being that was petrified, whose, skeleton was petrified or whose exoskeleton was petrified. They're the actual, cellulose bits from wood that had been buried and sediment filled in those gaps, and you end up with, tree logs that are completely made out of rock. They're really gorgeous. My grandma had a doorstop that was just a big piece of petrified wood, just right there in front of her house. It was great. I kind of wish I had that. That would be really cool, but I don't even know what happened to it. But it wasn't very hard to find that in the part of northern Arizona where she was living. And it looks like I need these guys. This one got moved a little bit out of the way. Oh, hello. I wonder why that wasn't focusing. You guys missed all of that. That's pretty terrible. I'm not going to go back though, because it's the same stringing that we did before, so I'm mostly just chatting while I'm putting beads on a strand. I hope that that is permissible. I didn't even see the screen to see if it was focusing or not, because it's been doing focusing just fine. Okay. I did it again. I have 2 seed beads in a row here. It is very easy to sometimes get a little distracted, but if you stop and look at what you've done, you can find those mistakes and fix them. And I've encouraged folks in the past to stop and admire your work, and I think it's a very important part of the process of making, to stop what you're doing, look at what you've done, and just be proud of it, fall in love with it, or decide you don't like it and change your mind, because you're allowed to change your mind. You know, what if I was like, oh, I don't like having these 2 right next to each other? I would have to restring this and just do it with a single one, but I really like having those next to each other. I think it adds a little bit more than just a one color, other color, one color, other color. It gives it not a more organic feel, but more of a better planning than just one other, one other, one other that you sometimes get, or that I often get when I'm doing stringing like that. Sometimes I love that, sometimes I'm not so into it. You know what I mean? It's a teeny tiny color block. You know, I've got like a turquoise color block, and then I've got a little teeny color block, and I think that's fine. Then the gold just brings it all together. With these seed beads, and these are galvanized seed beads, so the finish on them won't wear off as quickly as non-galvanized. If you want something that the finish will last a little bit longer on, then you probably will want to use some metal spacers instead of seed beads, but these are going to be exactly right for what I want to use this for. And I like to use the lid of these little tubes to help scoop up my seed beads to get them up and out of the way. So now that I've got this strung, I'm going to double check my length again before I crimp this last bit, just to be sure that, yep, this is going to sit exactly where I want it to be, right there in the hollow of my neck, but it's not going to be too tight. It's going to be a little bit loose and just hang out right there at the base of my neck. So let's get another crimp on this end. Going through the crimp with my beading wire, back through the crimp to make a loop. And I don't want this to be strung too tightly, so I'm just going to curve my work. This takes up slack in the wire to give it a curve. There we go. So now that that's all curved up, I can tighten my loop. And I like to use my fingernail to kind of wiggle between that last bead and the crimp when I do my second crimp, so that there's room on either side of the crimp for my crimper, so that I can make sure I get that centered, and so I don't accidentally crush the seed bead. I have actually used these in order to crush a seed bead when I accidentally strung too many on in other projects. I hate doing that. I hate breaking my seed beads or my delicas, but sometimes it's easier than restringing or unstringing things to do it that way. So now, yes, there is a little bit of slack, but that's good because it means that the necklace won't be too tight. It will be nice and flowy. I love it already. So let's grab chain nose pliers and some of our jump rings and attach a clasp. Alright, so I've got a 5mm jump ring that I'm going to attach my lobster clasp to. I always test my lobster clasps before I attach them, just to make sure they work. And I tested this one earlier, and it does work. So let's get that in there and then put that loop that I made right on there. Now sometimes you might need a wire guardian on your beading wire. I usually find that I don't need that as much with soft flex wire though. But if you wanted to use a wire guardian, you certainly could for a project like this. It would just be a little bit of an extra step when you're making your crimp. Alright, I was just making sure that the ends of that jump ring are flush. And I'm going to connect this 6mm jump ring to that end using this 5mm jump ring. I suppose I could just attach the 6mm jump ring to it. Yeah, actually, why don't I do that? It's a split jump ring. I don't need to add an extra jump ring to that. Especially when this is already pretty much the perfect length for wear that I was looking for. Alright, so just opened, closed, put through the loop, and now I have my little closure, and I have my fossil necklace all finished, all pretty, all ready to go hunting fossils in the deserts. I hope y'all are having a fantastic week, and if you're not, just know that I am thinking about you and hoping that if it's not a fantastic week yet, that it gets better. And I also will let you know that I will have a link in the description below to Kraftika. This is one of their subscriptions. It's the subscription box where you get a bunch of beads and you get to play around with them, and it's always check glass beads that have been curated to a theme. And this one was turquoise mirrored, which very much fits that. It comes straight from Czechia, and it's a really fantastic one. They've also got the Bohem Style box, which is 2 DIY kits that you get, but I don't get that subscription. I just get this one. I'll link to my unboxing as well if you want to see what else is in that box. Until next time though, happy beading.